Yeah, finally, some Man United fans, and it's not only Terry, but some Man United fans are seeing the light. Um, I said before in this show that Man United fans, the majority of them, or some of them, are actually entitled. The problem with Man United fans, your generation, my generation, Lola's generation, and even the younger, a little bit the younger ones than us, is that we grew up a Man United winning trebles, league titles, Champions League semifinals, finals. So some of the fans have never seen the club not winning. They just grew up on the club winning. When you go one season without a trophy, Man United fans used to say that's a failure of a season. But finally, some of the Man United fan base are realizing that it's not only like this, which is some of the Barcelona fans, the young ones, starting to realize that it's not Messi. Like we don't have Messi anymore. Some Man United fans, which is what you just said, that we gotta trust who's running the club now. They had the key, they have the keys now. We're gonna make them make decisions. We're seeing the board and everything is just doing well and hiring the right people. We don't have to win now. The problem is, are the social media gonna let you do that? Or the banter isn't gonna stop. It's gonna trigger people. It's gonna trigger Man United. The problem with this day and age is that the millions and millions of followers on Twitter and on the social media and the watch TV, they're gonna be triggered. If the next manager comes in and be six, they're gonna be bantered. They're gonna be mocked. They're gonna put pressure on the manager. They aren't gonna wait. Are Man United fans mature enough to know that this is a process? It might take time. You might not be in the Champions League. I think that's the risk. But I'm glad that I'm hearing you
Mm.
and the rest of the Man United fan base accepting what's going on.
The,
We have to
the,
wait.
the answer, there's a yes and no to this. There are some Man United fans that won't be patient, but there are some Man United, these are the same Man United fans who, in my opinion, they either want us to be the best team in the world so they can flex, because Man United are more of a fashion accessory to them than a club they support. They either want us to be the best team in the world so they can flex and laugh at everybody else and say, because you got this, there's a percentage of every club's fan base where they want to be the best team so they can pretend that it means that their understanding of football is better. You'll always get people say, well, what do you know about football, Dan? You're a West Ham fan, as if that makes your knowledge of the game less. You get that arrogance. Those same arrogant people, though, they either want to be the best so they can flex, or they're happy to be rubbish because it means they can be angry, and that is how they generate attention online. That's what it always comes down to. I'm not really worried about those individuals. There will be patience from the majority of the Man United fans if we genuinely see progression. So let's say it's Potter that comes in and we're not quite good enough to win the league. We're not quite good enough maybe to make the top four first season. But say that football looks good. Say we are moving that ball well. Say there is a good structure in and out of possession and we're playing better football. We're controlling more games and we're improving as a football team. There'll be patience. The reason why I think most of the managers at Man United have been turned on very quickly is because there's one thing, and I know it's a bit of a buzzword in this day and age, that everybody says sustainable football. But to bring that buzzword to life, to give it some character and some features, there hasn't been a single manager yet who's had us playing football where anyone, including Man United fans or rivals, genuinely looks at it and believes, I can see this team getting better and better and better and better with extra quality that they add to this team. That is what the new ownership, the football decision makers, and the new coach have to get right quickly. Big Ange Postecoglou is a prime example. I got this wrong. A lot of Spurs fans got this wrong. We were like, what are they doing bringing him in? But the reason why, look, they're in a fifth place position, which is near a Champions League spot. By the way, top 5 gets you Champions League now, which will help more teams get in. But what's helped Tottenham has been the quality of the football. If they were in this position with this many points, but the football was like Antonio Conte's, there would still be a lot of Spurs fans unsure. But because they've seen good quality football, because they've seen what the future could look like as they add better quality to this squad, there's a buy-in to the guy. And that's what Man United, in my opinion, have got wrong in the last decade as almost a starting point. If Ten Hag would have coached this team to play his brand of football, and we were moving the ball well, we looked good in and out of possession, but we just weren't quite good enough to win the major trophies because we needed additional players, he'd be backed by the majority. The difference is the football is completely unsustainable, And every week we get a different Man United. The team that turns up to play against Chelsea will not play the same way against Liverpool at the weekend and will not play the same way the game after that. And I think that's our issue, Mo. So if they want to get genuine buy-in from the masses, it's about how the football looks partly, but can you see it growing and getting better from this point? And if McKenna or Potter or Almiron or Alonso, I'm just throwing names out, whoever it is that comes in, they have to get that right and quickly. I don't believe it takes a manager 2 years to get his style of play to start showing through. You should be seeing it within a handful of games. Within a handful of games, you as fans should go, I can see what he's trying to do. And then I think fans buy into it personally.
Is there a reason that you seem to be prioritizing a British manager? Because the way I look at it, there's big question marks over British managers in this country. The only one to win the league in this country is Sir Alex. And look, British managers can, they can improve and can maybe finally start to get to the point where they can coach the big clubs and get over the line. But so far, we haven't seen it. So I'm very curious at why, we're seeing Southgate, McKenna, Potter. Like, why this lean towards is that intentional, or are these just the managers that they think are going to be the best choice for the club, or is it a British thing?
So looking at a lot of the reports that have come out, names like Zidane, names like Almiron, of course, who's in their top three. I think Alonso's name's been mentioned. There is talk now of Nagelsmann as well, now being involved in this. So what we spoke about today is one source who said this. There are other sources out there that have mentioned Nagelsmann. This source has said that Almiron is within the top three. But a number of the international managers that you would look at, or the French, the Spanish, whoever, Portuguese managers, Liverpool are going to get Almiron over Man United. So what are we going to? I think there's an element here that where Mo has been right of the better guys we just can't get. Like, genuinely, I think there's an element of that. I don't think there's a blanket approach of we just want a British manager.
Was it not reported that Jim Radcliffe was leaning British? Was that a report I've made up in my head? I'm sure I saw something like that.
For me, that was a slight. There is a report that said that. It can't be true though if all the reports are showing that within his top 5 list of managers, there's 3 guys that are not British. If that makes sense, I think that there's an element there of that. I think what is true within it is that, again, and the person that he's bringing in to run the club as his CEO is a Omar Barada. I want to say he's either Spanish or French Moroccan, one of the two. That's about as far away from being British as you can be, right? So I think there's some truth to it. But then most English clubs have an element of a British core within their internal structure or within their team, the same as most Spanish clubs, most Italian clubs, most Portuguese clubs have that as well. So I don't think it's weird. I just think over here in the UK, I certainly do something. We're all a bit weirded out by it, but every other nation, I think if you go through most Italian clubs, there's a lot of there's the core is Italian, generally speaking. Yeah, so I don't necessarily think it's a big problem. As I say, that the CEO is not British, as an example. Some of the managers we're linked to are not British. A lot of the players we're going to sign, one of the stories today is that we're heavily linked, or one of our number one midfield targets this year that I wanted to actually ask you both about is the young guy João Neves of Benfica. So I don't believe this idea that everything we do and everyone we sign is going to be British. But yeah, so I get your question though, but I don't necessarily believe it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, understandable.
Who was the last English manager that was actually good? English,
actually,
not
English manager. I mean, yeah, because the good ones have all been Scottish.
Yeah.
Who was the last English manager?
David Moyes is not English. English.
No, it's talking about English
manager.
Harry Redknapp would probably be the last one that I'd say is good.
Well, the Spurs one, Harry Redknapp, quarterfinal of the Champions League. That's what you say is good.
FA Cup winner with Portsmouth as well. Yeah,
also Cup winner with West Ham.
I'd say good manager. Last great English manager, probably Brian Clough. Like, great manager, and that was, I mean, he retired in the early 90s, so George Graham
Roy Hodgson was not that. Roy Hodgson coached Inter, coached, I think. If I'm...
Roy Hodgson was a good manager.
But he didn't succeed inside. That's the thing. He didn't succeed in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'd put him as a good again. I'd just say good manager. I'd put him into that category. The last great English manager, I can't think of anyone after Brian Clough. I mean, again, I love Venables, God rest his soul, because of Euro '96, but he wasn't a great manager. Well, no, he went to Barcelona and did bits. So you could throw Terry Venables into that category. Someone here saying Kevin Keegan. Kevin Keegan wasn't a great manager. Come on, what did he win?
Bobby Robson.
Bobby Robson. Yeah, Bobby Robson. It's been a long time. It's been a very, very, very long time since that.
I know we have topics. Why do you guys think that is happening in the last 25 years? What happened to English managers? What happened? Why English footballers cannot go and be like Xavi, for example, who won the Liga, like Zidane?
I'll tell you why. English football started to change when we started to bring over more influences from across the world. And I think English football became better because we brought Brazilians and Spanish and Portuguese players and whatnot from around the world. The problem we had is that for a long time at grassroots level, we didn't change how we played. So the setup of St. George's Park and the current crop of English players that you're now seeing have been brought up at academies playing a very different brand of football to every generation before them. It's why players now may not be as good as some of the previous, but the technical ability of players now is at a different level to what it used to be. I've gone to watch League One football this year a little bit with my brother watching Orient. You should see how they play at that level. When I grew up as a kid, at that level, everything was long ball into the channels and the big man. Now they have got patterns and they are passing and there is shape and that possession. There's pressing. It's not like it used to be. And that's because British and English coaching has had to change because English football has changed. But I think there was a massive 15 or 20 year period where the coaches essentially became out of date with what was winning at the highest level of the game. What you might now see, and only time's going to tell over the next 5, 10, 15 years, is more English and British managers that come through that have a brand of football that matches how you win at Premier League level and Champions League level. That's all I really think it's down to is football changed, but the way we were teaching managers, coaches and players in England was so far behind the curve, it's unbelievable. So I think it's something along those lines for me personally.
Are you interested in Gary O'Neill at all?
Again, I like Gary O'Neill. I like how he plays football. I like him. I mean, again, if you're asking me Gary O'Neill or Southgate, I'm probably picking Gary. I'm probably picking Gary O'Neill.
You would choose Dan Lawless over Southgate. That's
I would.
Because I believe like the problem with Manchester United is something that before we move on is that people need to understand that not every coach and not every club will come and play Pep Guardiola's brand of football. It's not going to be position-based football 70%. Like, for example, Inter, we conceded the least amount of goals. We scored the most amount of goals, but we're 6th in terms of ball position. We are 4th in terms of passes completed in the league. We just have a different style of play that play every game. Just people have to understand that not every coach is the same. Not every successful coach is a position-based football. Zidane is not a position-based football. Not every coach is going to be a student of Pep Guardiola. Klopp is not that guy. And I think that people need to understand this. And I think people need to open their minds a little bit that there are different styles of football. Yes, Erik ten Hag said transition-based football, but he's not playing it. But people need to open their eyes and open their minds of like different ideas, different brands of football around. David Moyes, for example, specific style of play that is working. It's actually working for West Ham. I'm not saying that Man United should play that style of play, but at least he has a style of play. But people need to understand that it's not all Artetas and Pep and Xavis around the world. There are other coaches around the world. That there is the Ancelotti, there is the Inzaghi's.
No, I agree.
They are different.
I agree. I agree. But I think the problem English managers struggled with is when I don't know what percentage of the Premier League became like sort of foreign, as it were. And I'm going to get the stat wrong, but I read somewhere once 60 to 70%. Which, again, I have no issue with. Like, so when it comes to England, there's a lot of England fans that only want an English man to manage England. I couldn't give a damn as long as they're winning. It doesn't bother me. But if British coaches are trained teach football in a particular way, but then you look at the Premier League and coach it a certain way, and the Premier League has got the majority of players that play in a different way. It's not conducive. Does that make sense? And I think it's just we were behind the curve, and I think that's changing. I do agree. I think there's also more than one way to play football, and I think that should be embraced more. But there we go.